It was Christmas Eve in the remote mountain village of Frost Hollow, and the streets were eerily quiet. Snow fell in heavy, relentless sheets, blanketing the town in a suffocating silence. Clara, a university student home for the holidays, was rummaging through the attic of her childhood home when she stumbled upon an old, ornate envelope. The edges were frayed and the ink had faded, but the message was clear. You are cordially invited to the midnight feast under the old pine. Bring a candle and an open heart. Clara frowned. She had never heard of such a tradition, and the handwriting wasn't familiar. Her parents had never mentioned it. Intrigued, she showed the invitation to her mother, who blanched at the sight of it. "Where did you find this?" her mother asked, her voice trembling. "In the attic," Clara replied. "What's wrong?" Her mother's lips tightened. "Stay inside tonight. Whatever you do, don't go to the old pine." But as the clock neared midnight, Clara's curiosity got the better of her. The allure of the mysterious invitation was too strong to resist. Clara slipped out into the freezing night, clutching a flickering candle. The old pine was a towering, ancient tree at the edge of the forest, its gnarled branches reaching into the sky like skeletal fingers. As she approached, she noticed a faint glow emanating from the clearing. Shadows danced across the snow and low murmurs filled the air. A group of villagers stood in a circle, each holding a candle. Their faces were pale, their eyes distant. At the centre of the circle was a large table laden with food, but something about it felt wrong. The roast glistened unnaturally and the wine shimmered like molten silver. "Welcome, Clara," said a voice behind her. She turned to see an elderly woman in a dark cloak. Her face was familiar, yet Clara couldn't place her. "Who are you?" Clara asked. "Merely a guide," the woman replied with a chilling smile. "Join us. The feast is about to begin." Clara hesitated, but the pull of the gathering was irresistible. She stepped into the circle, her candle casting flickering shadows on the snow. The villagers moved mechanically, sitting at the table and raising their glasses in unison. Clara hesitated, her instincts screaming at her to leave, but the woman's eyes bore into hers, compelling her to stay. Clara sat reluctantly, her candle flickering in the icy wind. "To new beginnings," the villagers intoned, their voices hollow. Clara picked at her plate, the food strangely odourless despite its rich appearance. She took a tentative bite of the roast, and an overwhelming wave of memories crashed over her, but they weren't hers. She saw flashes of unfamiliar faces, heard screams and felt cold, unrelenting despair. She dropped her fork, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Around her the villagers ate with unsettling vigour, their faces contorted in grotesque expressions of pleasure. "What's happening?" Clara whispered. The woman leaned closer. "The feast feeds the hollow, and now so will you." Clara's stomach churned as the weight of her predicament settled in. She wasn't just a guest, she was part of the ritual. Clara bolted from the table, but the snow beneath her feet seemed to pull her down, each step heavier than the last. The murmurs grew louder, the voices rising in an otherworldly chant. She looked back and saw the villagers, their faces now skeletal, their eyes glowing faintly, marching toward her. The old pine loomed ahead, its trunk split open to reveal a dark void, pulsating with an unnatural light. Clara's mind raced. She had to stop this. She hurled her candle toward the tree, hoping to destroy whatever malevolent force it harboured. The light flared briefly before extinguishing, leaving the void untouched. "You cannot escape," the woman's voice boomed, now disembodied. "You are part of the feast. The hollow must be fed." The ground beneath Clara cracked and shifted, revealing more glowing voids. She stumbled but kept moving, the oppressive darkness nipping at her heels. Clara's candle sputtered and died, plunging her into darkness. The villagers closed in, their skeletal hands outstretched. She felt the pull of the hollow, an ancient force that demanded sacrifice. "Choose," the woman's voice echoed. "Offer another in your place, or join the hollow yourself." Clara's mind raced. She thought of her family, safe at home, and the innocent lives that had been consumed by the hollow over the years. Her heart pounded as she made her decision. She stepped forward, facing the tree. "Take me," she whispered, her voice steady. The void expanded, swallowing her whole. The villagers froze, their skeletal forms collapsing into the snow. The old pine creaked and groaned, its branches curling inward as the hollow's hunger was sated. For now. Months later, as spring thawed Frost Hollow, a new family moved into Clara's old house. While unpacking, the youngest child stumbled upon an old, ornate envelope hidden in the attic. It read, "You are cordially invited to the midnight feast under the old pine. Bring a candle and an open heart." The cycle had begun again, and this time the hollow's hunger would be even greater. But this family's story was different. The father, David, was a historian with a knack for uncovering local lore. He unearthed old newspaper clippings, journals, and whispered tales from Frost Hollow's long-forgotten past. Stories of villagers disappearing on Christmas Eve, of the old pine's eerie presence, and of a mysterious woman who appeared whenever the feast was mentioned. As the days stretched into weeks, David pieced together the sinister puzzle. The hollow didn't just demand sacrifice, it thrived on secrets and fear, growing stronger with each unspoken truth. He found sketches of the tree's void-like centre in a journal dated 1875, paired with a chilling note, "To destroy the hollow, one must face the truth it reveals." David confided in his wife Eleanor, but she dismissed his concerns as superstitious nonsense. Their youngest daughter Lucy, however, was drawn to his findings. She began dreaming of the old pine, of glowing candles and skeletal figures, her sleep plagued by whispers that grew louder each night. One evening, as the family prepared for bed, Lucy's voice broke the uneasy silence. "Daddy, the tree is calling. It says the feast is soon." David froze. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Lucy's eyes were wide, her voice distant. "It says it's waiting for us, for me." Eleanor brushed it off, laughing nervously. "She's just repeating what she's heard from you, David." But David knew better. The hollow's pull had already begun. The question now was whether they could break the cycle, or if they would become the next chapter in Frost Hollow's chilling tale.